Hello, everyone. So happy to see all your faces. So happy you could join us tonight.
Hey there.
Neely, I think you're muted.
Am I muted? Am I back?
There,
Okay.
you're there.
Sorry. So as you were joining, if you could just tell us where you're viewing from, and then one thing that you're struggling with that you think might be hormone related. And just put it in the chat feature. We will.
Can't hear them.
I'll start because I am in Dallas as well as West. We're both in the Dallas area. And one of the things that I've noticed is my hair has changed and it's thinner and just different. I mean, there's still a lot of hair there, so I'm not worried. But it's definitely one thing that I have started to notice, and my nails are a little more brittle. So if you're just hopping on, we are just asking where are you from and one thing that you're struggling with. We'll just kind of peek. Princeton, New Jersey, Philadelphia. No weight loss, but gaining muscle. That's good.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Indy, Idaho, Arizona, tired, low energy, postmenopause, Chicago, and weight gain. Las Vegas, hair loss and cold. Yeah, cold hands, cold extremities. That is definitely a sign. Connecticut, weight gain. Arlington, Texas, always a good sleeper, but not anymore. That's sad. Midlothian, Texas, energy. Houston, hi everyone. Oregon. Canada, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, Tulsa, Oklahoma, gaining in the middle, Georgia, weight gain and low energy. So if you're just hopping on, welcome. And we are just saying where we're from and maybe one thing that you've noticed that your thyroid might be causing struggles with. St. Louis, Virginia, Toronto, fatigue, weight loss, cold, hair loss, weight gain. Kentucky, Connecticut, brittle nails. Yep. Kansas. All right. Just looking through here. Maui. I wish I was in there.
I know.
You?
Me too.
Hard to lose fat. New Jersey, trying to lose weight. Weight gain. California. San Antonio, not losing weight. I hear this. I'm hearing this over and over. Unable to lose belly fat. Let's see. Houston, Mexico, not losing weight, not sleeping. Okay, we hear you loud and clear, don't we, Celeste?
Yes, we do.
We do. Well, my dad actually has hypothyroidism and his mom did as well. She actually had her whole thyroid removed. So this is something that has been on my radar. Like the last 10 years, I've been thinking this and, always getting my levels checked. But prevention is just as important as healing. So the more you can do before your thyroid kind of takes a tank, the better off you're going to be. So I hope that you guys can at least take one tip away from today that you can put into your everyday life. We're very excited to bring this masterclass to you. Is your thyroid stalling your fat loss masterclass? We're going to be chatting about all things thyroid. And since the thyroid produces the hormone that controls your metabolism, that it very well could be stalling your fat loss. So, but we will help you understand why and maybe things that you could do to support what you're already doing. So, as I said earlier, the chat feature is open. Go ahead and put your where you're from and anything that you might be struggling with. And we will be taking questions. However, we will not be taking any personal questions, meaning exactly about you. We just are here to answer basic questions and give you information. A little bit about me before we get started. My name is Neely Cheddar. I'm one of your hosts tonight. Thank you for coming. So excited you're here. I'm a certified faster way to fat loss coach, personal trainer, and a certified macro coach. I also have a degree in accounting, but that's not going to help us here tonight. I've always had a love for working out. I started running track at age 5. My first class I signed up for in college was an aerobics class. I did sports all through high school, so it's always been a love of mine. I never knew about macros until 4 years ago when I joined the Faster Way to Fat Loss, though, and that changed the way I eat. It changed the way I fuel my body, and so I've helped thousands of women, boost their metabolism, build muscle, I just have confidence again. And so we'll talk a little bit about food and exercise in this class as well, and how it can benefit your thyroid. I'm so excited that I get to personally welcome my co-host, Celeste McCain. She is a functional nurse practitioner, and I'm going to let her tell you all about her. She is my go-to doctor on hormones and all things thyroid. So take it away, Celeste, and let us hear a little bit about you.
I am a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse practitioner for 4 years. And I was a nurse before then. I worked in traditional medicine for many years as cardiac neuro, ICU things, and just wanted a lot of prevention and wanted a lot of education behind the people I were seeing that were really sick in the hospital, things that could have helped prevent them get there. And so I work with a great doctor and get to do functional medicine, which we do a lot more. Some people talk about how it's so much different, but it's basically taking traditional medicine and actually looking at some of the new research and just applying that. Whereas traditional medicine, they have a little more constraints on them just with insurance and things like that. But I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in South Lake, which is right in the middle. And pretty much I see patients Monday through Friday.
Yeah. And then she does these wonderful trainings with me.
Yes. And I've actually been a client of Neely's before. Sometimes we need a little accountability, even though when we know what we're supposed to be doing and stuff, and really helped me have a much more love of weight training. I was an athlete, but never really trained for it. I was just kind of a natural athlete growing up. And so weight training and things like that were very foreign to me, actually, and really got into it. And I love it. I do a lot of Pilates now. So
awesome. Well, we're very excited to hear from you. We're excited you're here. So we will just get started. And I guess most of the time when people think about their thyroid being underactive, they're thinking about symptoms like weight gain, brittle nails, fatigue, cold hands and feet, all the things that we're hearing here in the comments. Interestingly enough, these symptoms could be different things besides your thyroid. So it's so important to have some testing done.
Yes.
So tell us about the thyroid, where it's located, how it functions, and all the things. Because it's this tiny little thing, and it does so much. It
is a tiny little thing. It is right at the base of your neck. It kind of right here. If you can feel it, you probably need to go see your doctor. And basically it kind of runs our whole system. And so your thyroid, it's kind of a feedback loop. The way it works is you have a brain hormone that is called TSH, and it goes out and says, hey, I need some T4. And then T4 comes out and goes into your liver and makes something called T3. And then that T3 actually runs about 85% of most of our cells. And so looking at our overall, if you're low on that, which is a really weird thing, you're getting that weight loss, that gaining weight, those dry, brittle nails, and especially cold hands and feet, because we're not getting that circulation or energy to our extremities. It's trying to keep all our energy here. And so a lot of times that's what you'll see is some of those symptoms. You can also have a hyperactive, thyroid, which it works overtime. And you kind of have the opposite effect. You usually have weight loss, hyperactivity, kind of bug eyes, and things. And that can be extremely serious, that you really do have to see a doctor. And that's where we get into, but some of those things can lead to hypo later on too.
And hypothyroidism is actually pretty common, correct?
Yeah, it's really common. If you think about where it's located, it's basically right here. So it's kind of the forefront, and lots of things affect it. So things you eat, our environment, everything really can affect. And a lot of our minerals, if we're not getting enough minerals, that can affect your thyroid. So it's really one of those things that runs our whole system. And it's actually one of the oldest diseases. There's actually it's probably one of the oldest pharmaceuticals we have that was actually in the 1800s that they started actually seeing. They knew what it was, and they actually kind of started giving animal thyroid to people. They didn't like mash it up into a little pill, but so it's one of the oldest diseases we have that we've known about, and so we actually have a lot of data about the thyroid over the years,
which is great because there is help and hope. Yes.
Yeah.
So how can we start to protect our thyroid if, we see our levels maybe going a little off stray, or if we know that our parents have thyroid issues? And I mean, is it genetic a little bit?
It can be genetic, especially if you have an autoimmune, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But for the most part, it does have a lot to do with the environment and stuff. I always say the number one thing is looking at your environment. Environmental toxins, we pretty much walk outside and are bombarded with them, but things we can control, like cooking in glass, not in plastic. Even if it's a BPA free, don't heat things up in plastic. Even just switching to cleaner products, really the least ingredients you have. You think of things that you put, because a lot of times we're putting makeup and skin cream and all kinds of things, and that's absorbing through our skin. And especially if we're going down our neck, that's right at our thyroid. And so things like clean filtered water. And I always tell people this, bottled water is not a horrible thing, but if you think about how it's shipped, they actually find a lot of plastic in bottled waters. So I usually like to have you try and have your own filter at home or things like that to drink water through it. I was going to say, I don't have mine up there. Anyway, so having your water bottles and drinking water that way. Eating whole foods, just eating foods that, eating your meats and your vegetables and your fruits, not having a lot of processed food. And we'll talk about it a little bit with autoimmune. It's definitely gluten and dairy free. There's actually a lot of evidence to prove that helps decrease that inflammation. And then some simple things to support are a few supplements is getting enough zinc. And those are in a lot of leafy greens, things like that. You don't necessarily have to take supplementation, but about 10 to 20 milligrams, it's not a lot. And then selenium is probably the number one thing. It's the highest antioxidant. It actually helps our body make that thyroid hormone better. And so selenium, one of the easy ways is Brazil nuts. 3 to 4 Brazil nuts a day keeps the doctor away. But or
very
yeah,
easy.
And they're starting to be sold everywhere. I get a huge bag at Costco.
Same. Yep. It lasts like months.
It lasts forever, I feel like. Anyway, or you can take 200 milligrams of selenium too. But those are some of the things. Environmental toxins is probably my top, to just look at your environment and kind of see those cleaner versions of things, especially things you're putting on your skin. Those are probably the biggest things that if you're putting makeup, anything like that on your neck, that's usually one of the top things that I talk about.
Makes sense. Cause if you think about it, I mean, how much would we like spray stuff on our,
Yes.
it's always right here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always an interesting time, and we don't think about it. I love Bath and Body Works. I love going in there, but most of their products are not great products to, to be spraying on ourselves or washing ourselves. So there's a lot better products out there, and things, and just doing little switches. I always say the first switch is going from plastic to glass, and then more cleaner water, and then kind of working on all those things.
And when you even say like going from plastic to glass, like even when you're storing your food too, right?
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
cooking, but
Yeah.
everything.
Yes, everything. I usually say if you can kind of get rid of most of the plastic in your house, just because it does seep. If it gets hot, which it does in Texas, but wherever you are, but if you're taking a glass outside, it's plastic, it's most likely going to get that plastic seeped in.
Very interesting. I'm just going to ask you this while we're here, but do you have any skincare products that you recommend to people?
I
look at the ingredients.
I look at the ingredients. There's a lot of good skincare. I'll say that I'm a huge fan of a couple of people online that have done all the research for me. Because I can't keep up with all of it. And so
especially on skincare, because there's a gazillion.
There's a gazillion of them. There's even just coconut oil is actually a good skincare product. And so we don't think about those simple things. If you can actually put essential oils in coconut oil, so you make it smell good, and you can use it as a lotion. It actually works really well, and you don't have to use very much.
It really does. If I ever get a sunburn, that's the first thing I'm putting on is coconut oil. And so, and you can put a lot of essential oils in there, and that's just really, it's just a cleaner way, because putting all the glycerins, and there's so many things that are in other ones. And you can always go to ewg.org. They actually have an app. You can scan products and see where they rank. If they're fairly clean, they'll be like a 1. If they're not at all, they'll be like a 5. And I do that a lot of times at the store too. For sure. So moving on, we talked a tiny bit about autoimmune, but what we want to talk about is Hashimoto's.
Yes.
That's the autoimmune with your thyroid.
Yeah.
So let's chat about that a little bit.
Okay. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition of the thyroid. So much more common in women than men. And what any autoimmune, it just has a name. It's from the guy who kind of invented it. But basically it's your body starts to attack your thyroid, usually starts to make it inflamed. And so a lot of times some people will come in and you'll be like, oh, you have kind of a goiter. And so you can actually see their thyroid just from sitting across the room from them. And so looking at that and seeing that, a lot of times where I see it most is the beginning of it. If you've never had it before, is postpartum. So if you had really severe postpartum depression, even if you're older, if you ever had kids, a lot of times they don't check it, but a lot of times it can be Hashimoto's, because it usually having kids will trigger that. And that's why it's much more common in women than in men. I do have some men that have it, but it's pretty rare.
Interesting. And so the difference there, when you're talking about supporting your thyroid, is the gluten and dairy free.
Yes. Here. Yeah. Gluten and dairy free are huge at this point, just because those are inflammatory. And there's actually a lot of evidence looking at dairy, especially gluten. We keep on saying, is it really the gluten or is it all the chemicals that are on the gluten? And so it's kind of a catch-22. But dairy, I'm finding more and more women have a reactivity to dairy. And the more I do research on it, the more about where does it come from? Well, it comes from somebody just had a baby. Even if it's organic, raw, it still has some hormones in it. So it can actually be a hormone disruptor sometimes in our body. And so going gluten and dairy free, we have about a 60% rate of actually making antibodies go negative just by diet.
Yeah. And that's amazing because, and with Hashimoto's and just a thyroid issue, I mean, organic is better, like the cleanest food you can get. And this is where the Faster Way actually comes in, the program I coach, because we go gluten and dairy free. And so everyone is, not just people that have thyroid issues, because it's good for all of us. So at least take it out for a bit and see how it's affecting you. Maybe you have so much inflammation in your body that you don't know about. Maybe you don't even realize that dairy is what makes you feel so sluggish and tired and gassy and all of those things until you actually take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so usually we have people go gluten and dairy free for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then they can add it back in. There's a lot of people who it really doesn't affect and stuff. And they're like, is it okay? I usually tell them to tend towards more organic than anything just because of the chemicals. But it actually is a huge, huge thing.
It is. And let's talk a little bit low carb, because the thyroid needs carbohydrates.
They do.
So a lot of people are scared to eat carbohydrates, and it's not always in your best interest.
Yeah.
Your liver, like we'll talk about in a little bit, needs glucose. And guess what? Glucose comes from carbohydrates.
Yeah. And so that's what a lot of times, I know, Neely, you and I have talked about this many a times, that we have a lot of women. I have a lot of women that come in my office. I know Neely has a lot of women that come to her and are eating. They're like, I don't like carbs. I'm not going to eat carbs. And usually they've stalled out. Usually you will see some weight loss a lot of times, and you feel better. You do feel better because if you think about it, you don't have sugar. I mean, you're not eating a lot of sugar. You're getting that protein that you need and things. But the reason you saw it is you do need those carbohydrates. And so that's why I actually love Faster Way, because they carb cycle. And so, and that's doing a few days of kind of keto, and then the rest adding in those, because it kind of tricks your body and your metabolism. And so I don't think you need to get rid of carbs.
I don't either.
It's actually something, and it's hard for a lot of people because there's so many keto. I think the keto industry kind of exploded or something. And so there's so many products out there, and it's easy to do, but most people will have kind of the opposite effect at some point.
It's not realistic to think you cannot eat fruits and vegetables for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It might be short term. It might work short term, but then when you add all that back, it's just the weight's going to come back.
Yeah. And that's with a lot of things. So but as much whole foods as you can is what we preach is.
Yes. That's what your thyroid likes.
I think that's a whole food. Yes.
And that's what we're trying to do, is heal it. Even if you're taking medication, you still want to heal it. Yeah. For sure.
I will actually tell you stories of people who went whole foods, was on kind of a moderate dose. I would say a moderate dose of thyroid medication, really started working out, doing a lot of weight training, not doing a lot of HIIT. We'll talk about HIIT and stuff in a minute, but, and basically got off their thyroid meds.
Isn't that amazing?
And so it's really something that can be done. The hard thing is sometimes we have to put in the work.
Yeah. And you need a doctor with you along the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Slowly take you off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't just go cold turkey.
Yeah. No, I've had a few patients do that and it doesn't usually end well.
No, no, it will not. Well, since we're talking about that, if you go and you get your labs drawn, usually what doctor will first do is take your TSH. But what other lab tests can be done to see like really is my thyroid functioning properly?
Yeah. So I always kind of laugh the more research you do and everything that this TSH, and really before 1980, we were running all the right tests on people. Something kind of switched in 1980 and somebody said, well, we just have to look at their TSH. So TSH is actually a brain hormone. It's thyroid stimulating hormone. So it's actually in your pituitary gland in your brain. And so it's all a feedback loop, like we talked about before, that it signals to your thyroid, hey, I need some thyroid hormone. And then out of your thyroid comes T4. So T4 is another thing we have to run, because your TSH might be fine. I actually had one patient even today, her TSH was totally fine if that's all I ran, but her T4, she was making almost none. And so we were like, okay, this is something's off, and doing a lot of work with that. And then with your T4, what happens a lot, and so if you're on Synthroid, levothyroxine, those are all T4 medications. So all you're getting is T4. So the hard thing with that is about 30% of patients are like, I'm taking it, but I'm not feeling any different. And so the next thing you have to test is your T3, because that T4 goes into your liver and it has to convert to T3. So T3 is actually our energy hormone. It's what runs our heart rate. It's what runs just so much of our body. And so if that T3 is low, then you're having a problem with that conversion factor. And so we have to run all of those tests to see where the dysfunction is, because it's not your brain. It may not be your thyroid. You may be making plenty of T4, but once it goes into your liver, it's like not converting. And so you're not getting that energy. And some people can keep taking as much Synthroid that they can and just not getting the relief. Yeah. And so that's kind of, and then some of the other lab tests for making sure you don't have Hashimoto's, making sure you don't have any of those is a TPO antibodies, and then thyroglobulin antibodies. And usually if they check thyroid antibodies, it'll run both of them on that. And so those are the tests. You can also run something called a reverse T3 that basically T4 converts into both of those. I call reverse T3 your lazy couch hormone because it sits in your liver and doesn't do anything. And so a lot of times if that's real high, it's looking at your stress levels, because a lot of times it's extremely high with stress, and it actually is extremely high in keto diets because your liver doesn't have enough to actually convert that to T3 instead of our lazy couch hormone. So
interesting. Another reason not to do low carb 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
that's interesting. So since T4 is converted to T3 in your liver, we honestly need to do some liver support too, not just thyroid support. When you're thinking about thyroid, you still need to think about your liver.
Yeah. I have a lot of patients who come in and have all the traditional symptoms of thyroid. We run their thyroid, and really, their thyroid is working fine, but it's their liver that is actually having a hard time. So one of the biggest things, again, a reason not to go low carb, is we need fiber. Fiber is your best friend. And people always are like, Benefiber, Metamucil. And I'm like, no, whole foods. So berries are a great fiber source. Oats, are a great fiber source. Beans, chia seeds, flaxseed. Um, there's so many fruits and vegetables that are great sources of fiber. But fiber, and the other thing about our liver is it runs our whole system. We really need to keep it happy uh, for a lot of reasons. And so fiber really helps us clean out that liver and helps everything to convert the way it's supposed to. And so another way, I think, Neela, you and I had kind of talked about it, castor oil packs.
Yes.
I know it sounds kind of crazy. And for those of you who don't know where your liver is, it's on your right side underneath your rib cage. And so I always forget that part, that everybody doesn't know anatomy.
Yeah. Accounting major.
I know. And so it's on the right side underneath your rib cage. But castor oil packs, you can buy these on Amazon. Castor oil is pretty cheap most places, and stuff. But doing those a couple times a week, it's actually been proven to actually pull toxins out of your body. And I've actually improved people's thyroid function just by having them do that 2 to 4 times a week. And so, I mean, it's really fascinating. People say they sleep like 1,000,000 times better, and things like that with castor oil.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I think that you can even wear it all night.
Yeah, you can. People ask me all the time, how do you wear it? And I'm like, you could wear it just at night while you're watching TV or something. But I have a lot of women who will put a cami on and just over it and wear it all night long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It usually comes with like a cloth strap. Somebody's asking, how do you put it on? It usually comes with like a little pack, and you put it in the pack and then you tie it on. It's like a little apron kind of.
Yeah. I've even had some women get felt and they do it themselves and wrap themselves in saran wrap. So,
wow. So that's how it works.
I know. So, anyway, but there's a lot of really, I mean, you're talking $30 to $50 on Amazon.
Yep. That's where I just get mine. There's different ones that you can get, but I mean, great functional way to clean your liver without taking any medications.
Yes.
It's just, it's great. Get rid of some toxins. Yeah.
Yes.
So awesome. Okay. All right, Celeste, the burning question, the title of this masterclass, and what everybody's here for, is the thyroid stalling our fat loss?
It might very well be, because it does run our metabolism. The first thing I always tell people is go check with your doctor. If you don't have a doctor, find one. It's
find one that will listen to you
about these things. Yeah, exactly. And research them, talk to your friends, see what, but doing a lot of the things that are previously mentioned, getting rid of your environmental toxins, doing gluten and dairy free, doing all that, especially exercise. That's the next one. Is it's really hard nowadays. We are a stress society. We're just a lot of stress. We were talking about phones earlier, and we're always on our phones, and I can go down many rabbit holes, but trying to decrease that stress. And it might be like putting away your phone, putting away your recordings, just breathing. But those are all things that you can actually do to help support that. But it is probably the biggest key sometimes to looking at the whole picture of your thyroid, not just that TSH, because most people will come to me even and be like, they said it was fine. And I'm like, well, what did they say? And another interesting thing is those lab values, you see the normal ranges and stuff. Most of them go up to, usually for a TSH, 4. Some of them will even go up to 5, depending on the lab. But the actual American Thyroid Society actually recommends that your TSH be below 2.5.
2.85, is that what you said?
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's a big difference from 5.
yeah. And so it's kind of a shame on some of the lab companies for not changing uh, some of those things. And it does take an act to change those kind of things too.
It does. Yes.
But yeah, and sometimes it's putting in that work, and that's a hard thing when we talk that, I wish I could give everybody a pill and their metabolism would turn around.
We'd be rich.
If there was a switch, I'd be a millionaire. And so I would love to do that, but really finding some of those things and seeing if it is an issue and being like, hey, this is what I'm hearing. And I usually say, go in with some stuff with your doctor and be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what, and sometimes I put people on it. Their labs may be normal, but they have, you want to talk about marking off every symptom and trying to get to that root cause. Sometimes I'll put them on a really low dose. And they might be like, oh, that's all I really needed was that little tiny extra support, while they're working on some other things to help them with their metabolism and energy and things. And one of the reasons I like Faster Way too, is the exercise, but it's not over exercising.
It's not.
Too. Yeah. And so a lot of times I say, and Neely says this a lot too, but I have people who are like, I've been running, I've been, doing so much cardio, but really a lot of times some of those hits and cardio can actually wear out your thyroid. And so sometimes just slow weight training or doing body weight, doing a lot more Pilates, a lot more yoga, things like that actually can be helpful to your thyroid while you're trying to figure out those metabolism, how that metabolism works. And not always one way works for everybody.
Yep, exactly. I know we always think I can lose fat if I just do more cardio, but what really boosts your metabolism is strength training.
Yes.
The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism actually is. And that's why I preach all the time about strength training and eating real whole foods and protein so you can build that muscle.
Yeah.
So yes, we've got to include exercise into our life, and it doesn't have to be hours. Like
no,
30 minutes in and out, get it done. Having a plan is really the key to sticking with something, is having a plan.
Yeah. And so I usually say just to figure out, you want a few days of rest because you want to rest those times, but just going on a walk those days. But, sometimes I'll do 10 to 20 minutes and I'm done for the day, and it kind of depends on what we're doing, things like that. So,
yeah. It's kind of like being your own detective. Like if you are worn out and tired, you need to listen to yourself and your body. That's your body saying today's a rest day, not pushing yourself beyond, because exercise is a stressor on your body. So while it's really good for you, if you are under continuous stress, sometimes taking that away and doing gentle, like we were saying, is actually more effective.
Yeah. Yeah. And so stress is probably the other big factor, is trying to find something that de-stresses you. And we're on 24/7 all the time now. And so trying to, put away your laptops, put away and do something that is just relaxing for you.
And that goes way beyond even just the thyroid.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That goes for life and mental health. And
talk about cortisol rising.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's off topic. That's a whole nother,
that's a whole nother one.
Okay. So obviously if your thyroid is not running optimally, then you need to have a little medication sometimes, because you have to have a thyroid that's running. So
Yes.
sometimes you are going to need medication,
Yeah.
and it's okay. You can still support it with your whole foods. There are some supplements, just like you were saying, and maybe at some point you can come off of it or even come down in dosages.
And that's usually my goal. Is there's going to be some people, I tell some people sometimes, especially what I find, if you've had lots of children, if you're a mom and have lots of children, it may be a lot harder for you to come off medication, because it takes about twice your thyroid to grow a child. And so sometimes the more children you have, the harder time, that's why it's more common in women, the harder time you have not being on medication. But there's great medications out there. Like I said, it's probably the oldest medication we've actually have, that people have been using for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of data and science behind that.
Yeah.
A little bit, since you said, women that have children, it does affect them more. How does thyroid affect fertility?
Yeah. So if you have low thyroid, going into, let's say, your 20s or your teens or something, I've a few, really young kids that we found like some autoimmune thyroid in, but sometimes that's not seen for later on. But that really affects, because like I said a few minutes ago, it actually takes, because your thyroid actually takes over growing that child in you. And so a lot of times with my hypothyroid patients, I almost have them double the dose if they become pregnant, and we'll do some labs and things. And it's actually one of the leading causes of miscarriages.
Interesting.
And so, because it's running so much, that a lot of people will end up hypothyroid in pregnancy. So before pregnancy, you got pregnant fine, but you're not, your thyroid just can't keep up with the demand. And so that will actually cause a miscarriage at some point. And so, so I tell people, if you can get your thyroid, and most OBs will check your thyroid, but sometimes if you're low already and they haven't checked it, and I'm amazed sometimes how many OBs don't check for just a basic fertility check, that if it's low already, then that's your brain hormone that actually makes your eggs. It's not TSH, it's called FSH, but those all come from the same place. And if it has a choice to make an egg or to make your thyroid hormone, it's going to make thyroid hormone over an egg. And so looking at that, because that can affect your fertility later on. And so it takes a lot for us to grow those kids.
Oh gosh, yes. Our bodies are pretty magnificent.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And there's a lot of times, but I tell a lot of my patients, especially postpartum and right after they get pregnant, I kind of release them to midwife or OB after that. But right after, it's like I said, with Hashimoto's, it's actually one of the leading causes of postpartum depression, because basically you think of this whole hormone release, you don't need as much thyroid hormone and things. And so that actually can cause some of that postpartum depression. So I always say, make sure and get your thyroid checked, after having a baby too.
And how about for aging women like me?
Yes.
Getting closer to the age 50, and for those in postmenopause, how is our thyroid? Does it decline with age?
It does decline with age. Just think about, it's running your metabolism, it's running your body, and basically running your whole system. And so it gets worn out after a while too. So I would say quite a few people 60 or above probably are on a little bit of thyroid medication, especially women. Again, that's just due to having children. And so with aging women, you usually do have some of those same symptoms going on, but you also have to, you can go back and watch our masterclass on menopause.
Right. Yeah.
And so it has a lot to do with fluctuating hormones and your body's trying to find a new regular. And so sometimes in that postmenopause or that menopause era, you may become hypothyroid just because your body's trying to regulate all your hormones and it's a little confused, and things. And so I have a lot that I'll put them on just a little bit. We'll kind of get all their hormones, get them through that stage and do that. But a lot of those postmenopause, you want to check some of your other hormones too, and go listen to the masterclass. Because some of those same symptoms can happen that are hypothyroid that are actually peri and postmenopause.
It is. I mean, the symptoms are kind of similar.
Yeah, they're very similar. And so that's why I say you need somebody to look at the whole picture and kind of know what they're talking about. And I think we've talked about this before. I usually tell people there's a lot. I love endocrinologists. There's some really good ones out there. I will actually say a lot of endocrinologists are very much more focused on diabetes right now than they are thyroid, because thyroid's kind of simple unless you have nodules, some things like that, goiters, or an overactive thyroid where you have it taken out. So the hyperthyroid, it's actually a more serious kind of medical condition if you have that. And a lot of times they'll either take it out or irradiate it, which basically means you don't have a thyroid. So you're actually managing it with medication, which is another whole balance that you really need somebody that can tweak this and tweak that. So you really need to have somebody who can really, I always say medicine is kind of an art of some kind that you can tweak medications to just, I have some people on a medication every other day or once a week or, but trying to find that balance for them.
And I'm sure there's people on this call that have had their thyroid removed.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we've said can still work for you.
Yes. Yeah, because basically they're hypothyroid because they don't have a thyroid. Yes. And so you're managing it with medication. And so it's a little bit different just because you're not making any of your own stuff. So you're totally replacing it with medication. And that's where I say for those people, liver support is probably the biggest, because they'll put you on Synthroid. If they put you on a desiccated thyroid, that's my personal favorite as a practitioner, because it's like your own thyroid. You do excrete a tiny bit of T3 out of your thyroid, but it's as similar as we can get. Synthroid is just a T4. And so you're putting T4. And so if you are putting all that T4 in, but you don't have a great liver, then you're definitely not converting, and you'll be like, and they may just keep giving you more and more. And that TSH really doesn't matter with somebody who doesn't have a thyroid because they're not regulated the same way.
So much good information. Kind of makes me wish I went to med school, but I don't know. I'll just live in that.
I was going to say there's a lot of things, even things I didn't learn a lot of it in nursing school or even nurse practitioner school. I did learn a lot of the physiology, but the nuances of things that's where it gets way more interesting. I feel like.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm just going to go ahead and look through the questions real quick as we wrap up. Someone asked if Brazil nuts should be organic.
I'm like, if you can get them organic, that's always better. But if you can't, that's still okay.
Yeah. And I will say the big bag at Costco is organic.
It's organic. Yeah.
And the price is right. So if you
Yeah.
have a Costco membership,
Yeah.
they are there. Let's see.
And I know Trader Joe's has quite a few, and
Yeah, they're definitely becoming more common.
yeah.
So for dairy free, do we not use whey protein? Well, whey is dairy, so
Yeah. And so that's the hard thing is,
is.
and I try in usually a denatured way is actually a better, there are some ways that I'm okay with. I usually say if you're going dairy free for the first time, try and find a plant-based one. Uh there's several out there. It really goes by taste for me. And clean ingredients, for especially the plant-based. I don't know why that is, but so I usually tell them try and go with a non-whey, with a plant-based one, for those few weeks. But I don't know, Neely, is Faster Ways dairy free?
Yes, the faster way is oh goodness, we have one that's plant-based and the other one is hydro beef.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I say the same thing, try to go off it but for like 3 weeks and then add it back, see how you
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. And so sometimes you'll see, and there's different ways, and there's different ones that a lot of people can tolerate, but there's some that people can't tolerate.
Yeah. Oh, stomach's just like pea protein to me. I just can't do it. My stomach is saying no.
Yeah.
So on the Brazil nuts, do we need up to 3 or 4 a day, or is 1 or 2 good?
And it kind of depends on the size. I usually say 3 to 4 just because sometimes they're a little bit smaller. So I usually say at least 2. Just kind of depending on the size. But
because
yeah.
selenium can be toxic in if you eat
Oh yeah.
a whole bag.
Yeah. So yeah, I just usually say, usually 2 if you can.
Yeah, that's a good number. For Hashimoto's, are oat milks and almond milks okay?
Yeah, I usually say try and get a gluten-free with, and most of the almond milk is gluten-free, but usually I just say doing a gluten-free one.
Yeah.
Oats is kind of a harder one a little bit.
Let's see. What are your thoughts on milk thistle?
Oh, I love milk thistle. It's probably one of the best liver detoxers. It's the one we've known about the longest. And things, it's actually, I put people on milk thistle all the time, especially if you, and in your blood work, if you have a yearly blood work, they will always run something called a CMP, just called a complete metabolic panel. It'll show your liver enzymes. And so they can actually look at least partial liver function to see if those liver enzymes are actually working well. Another one, if you ever want to ask for it, is called a GGT, like George Terry. And it's actually the marker for kind of fatty liver.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever want to see, sometimes your liver enzymes won't be elevated, but that will be elevated.
On the oil packs, can men use them? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
And can you drink it? No, I don't think.
No, don't drink it. Unless you want the runs. So they did use it a long time ago for constipation. So
yeah, I do think that is true. If you like cardio, how much would you recommend? And I think that's kind of a tricky question to answer.
Yeah, it's one of those that some people are built to run. I am not a runner whatsoever. And so my body just doesn't like running, and I've known that for a long time. And so I think it's kind of based on yourself, because some people have it for their mental health, and things like that. So it's a really kind of individualized. I usually say I wouldn't do more than 3 days a week of heavy cardio. And that's running like 5-6 miles, things like that. And so
I think that you'll feel it. Your body will
yeah,
start to tell you. And as you age, also your body gets run down and your joints start to hurt.
Yeah.
And if you're doing 6 or 7 days a week, then you're just telling yourself you need to go do it when you probably really don't need to go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need strength training. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to build muscle. That's my biggest thing is even if you're in your 20s or 30s, if you're on this call,
Exactly.
start lifting some weights now.
Yes.
Something I did not do in my 20s and 30s.
I don't know if this is a question you can answer, but at what numbers in your blood work do you think you would need medication? It's kind of individualized, I think.
It's very individualized, but my standard ones are a TSH above 2.5. I want your T4 above 1. I want your T3. That one's very individualized sometimes, because some women just live in a 2, but I like it in the 3s. And so that's kind of, but everybody's a little different, and you have to kind of work with a doctor on that.
Yeah. We are running out of time. 7:57. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to let everyone know, well, first of all, thank you for being here and spending the hour with us. We love talking to you, and knowledge is powerful. So take the knowledge that you learned today and do your own research. Take these things and take them to your own doctors. But if you wanted to connect with Celeste, she is here in the DFW area. She's at South Lake Integrative Wellness. We'll pop that into the chat feature, and it will be in my recap email as well. So you can touch base with her. She does do some virtual appointments as well. So you can connect with her that way. And then everything that you've heard today sounds like something that you need. I coach the Faster Way to Fat Loss, and we focus on whole food nutrition, dairy and gluten-free. We give you a strength plan. And then you have me as your coach. And this is kind of how Celeste and I met, because all of the things that the Faster Way teaches is the things she tells her clients to do. And sometimes you just need an accountability partner or someone to tell you what to do, and you will do it. We give you a meal plan and all of those things. My next group starts on Monday, the 13th, and I do have a $20 off for you since you showed up tonight. And I will put the link in that recap email as well as the $20 off promo code. And it's my only group starting in February. I won't be doing another one. So if you are wanting to get in, this is the one that you'll want to sign up for. 6 weeks with me. You will change a lot of habits and get on a new road to feeling a lot better.
And Neely is amazing at getting everything the way it's supposed to be. She helped me even with my macros, and I didn't know a lot about macros and things like that. So
yeah, you were wonderful because you knew a lot of things and you helped me too. So we help each other. Yeah. And so if you are interested, we will get that information to you. But we just want to say thank you for being here. We hope that you can take one little thing away with you and integrate it into your own life or tell someone. And we wish you well. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Good night.